Last week we started a month-long series on historical buildings in Central Oregon.
The spotlight was first turned on Patrick's Corner, an Art Deco building from the 1940s that was saved from demolition and now sports executive suites and a thriving coffee shop. This week we're going to get a look at one of the earliest buildings in Bend, one that brought Bend into the 20th century.
You may know it as Bunk and Brew, but in the early days of Bend, it was known as the Lucas House.
Lots of reasons to love this house. It's the first brick structure built in Bend, period, in 1910. So it only rivals the Smith Building on Wall Street as for that second place tie for these two buildings that were built in 1910 that are still standing.
Albert and Sadie came west before Bend was even a city.
One of the things that they do first is buy the original Pilot Butte Inn. So not the famous, Alpine Lodge that we all lament losing, but the very first version, which was just a very tiny rooming house.
The city was just beginning to boom, and so Albert and Sadie opened their doors to travelers from afar or for people who needed an affordable place to live to work at the local mills.
They build the house in 1910, move in, and Albert becomes kind of the first car dealer in Bend. So he gets a contract to be a salesperson for Speedwell Motor Company.
Only a few thousand Speedwells were ever built, and Albert managed to get his hands on a model car and then proceeded to get his hands into just about everything else in town.
Between 1900 and 1912, both the Lucases, Albert and Sadie, are very present in the newspaper, very active in many civic organizations.
Albert was even a signatory on the original petition to make Bend a city, but then he became a mystery for the ages.
In 1914, he kind of disappears from the newspaper, and there are only 3 tiny references that we can find between 1914 and 1915. One actually says that another individual has taken over handling of an estate due to the disappearance of Albert Lucas.
He's never heard from again, and according to the records found on Sadie, she goes from divorcee to widower.
And that's all that anybody knows.
He truly does just disappear from the scene. Nobody seems to treat Sadie any different. She's nenever associated with the debts or whatever scandal happens there. So there's a story there that we're never going to be able to unpack, and I so wish that we could. I wish I knew what exactly happened.
Sadie just kept on moving forward, raising the 3 boys on her own, till sadly one day her youngest died in the waning days of World War II.
Only 2 months later, like 2 days after Christmas, December of 1944, Sadie is reported as spending Christmas in Portland with Fred, and upon her return to the Lucas house here, she has a heart attack and dies. And that's the end of the Lucas family and their history with the house.
Now, the Lucas House started as a boarding house and has continued throughout its history to be a place for wayward travelers, something the new owners knew and wanted to continue to preserve.
We always love it when new building owners, immediately seek us out. What can you tell us about this building? Oh my God, come on in, sit down, we can tell you things. They knew what they wanted to do with the building and turn it into a hostel for folks coming through town to be able to stay in an affordable way. People seek out things that feel authentic, and there's nothing more authentic than this, brick house with the shutters and the, pine tree that's kind of an, homage to the industry that really made this place a spot on the map.
It continues to draw travelers from afar, including my own mother who stayed here years ago, who's retired and on a fixed income.
They've got a door open, the way that place has always had a door open for people to be able to stay affordably. And I think that's a case of a historic building giving us still that sense of community and connection that can easily get lost as soon as you start tearing these places down.
For Central Oregon Daily News, I'm Scott Elmas.